All right, let's dive right in to this weekend's Premier League clash, Newcastle and Wolves. Newcastle, they're on fire.
Oh, yeah.
8-game winning streak
Absolutely.
across all competitions.
Yeah.
Looking for that top 4 spot.
Yep.
Wolves, on the other hand, they're battling relegation, hoping for a turnaround under their new manager, Vitor Pereira.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be an exciting match. I think we've got a stack of stats, insights, and historical tidbits to sort of unpack here.
Yeah, unstoppable force meets immovable object, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Newcastle, their attack has been relentless, but Wolves have been, kind of grinding out results under Pereira, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's kick things off with, let's get into some betting insights.
Yeah, I love it.
For the listeners. For starters, I mean, Newcastle's 8-game win streak.
It's hard to ignore.
You can't ignore it. 5 of their last 6 at home in the league, making them the clear favorites, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, but there's a curious trend with Newcastle. They've drawn 3 times since the start of 2024, and each of those draws came immediately after back-to-back home league wins, almost like they hit a wall after a couple of big victories.
So a draw might not be out of the question.
It's a real possibility.
It makes you wonder, right? That psychological factor could be interesting.
Yeah.
What about Wolves? They've only lost one of their last 4 matches. Could they be poised for an upset?
I mean, it's possible. Pereira seems to have stabilized things a little bit, but their away form, it's a worry, especially defensively.
Yeah.
They've only kept 1 clean sheet on the road since January of last year, and that was against a lower league opponent in the FA Cup.
Yeah, so betting on a Wolves clean sheet is probably a long shot.
That would be a bold bet, that's for sure. But, as always, we say past performance isn't a guarantee of future results.
Of course. Of course.
That's why we love this game. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. Absolutely. Now, another stat that caught my eye is the head-to-head record. Newcastle have won 3 of their last 5 encounters, with the other 2 ending in draws. Does that give them a psychological edge, do you think?
I mean, it's definitely a factor to consider, but what's even more interesting is that 67% of their recent head-to-heads have seen both teams find the net.
Okay, now that's a stat I can get behind.
Yeah.
Both teams to score sounds like a pretty good bet in this scenario.
It does. And if you factor in the over-under 2.5 goals market, it gets even more interesting. Just for clarity, that means betting on whether there'll be more or less than 3 goals in total. Now, 55% of Newcastle's matches this season have ended with over 2.5 goals, but for Wolves, that number jumps to a whopping 80%.
80%?
Yeah.
Wow. Sounds like we could be in for a goal fest.
Yeah.
But, beyond those general trends, what specific factors should we be looking at when we analyze this match?
Well, let's move beyond the numbers and delve into the actual match preview itself, where, individual players and tactical nuances come into play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. Let's get into it.
Yeah, and when you look at the players involved, some really fascinating individual narratives emerge.
Yeah?
That could have a big impact on the match.
Yeah, I love that. Those little details.
Yeah.
That kind of add human element to it.
Exactly.
It's not just formations and tactics. It's the players on the pitch.
Exactly. So, take Newcastle defender Fabian Schär, for instance.
Right.
He has a remarkable record against Wolves. He's never lost to them in his entire career.
Really?
4 wins and 4 draws in 8 matches.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. I mean, he must be going into this game feeling incredibly confident, right?
Yeah, he must.
But it's not just about avoiding defeat. He's also scored 3 goals and picked up 3 yellow cards in those matches, which suggests he's, a real physical presence, someone who relishes the battle.
Yeah, so he's not just a solid defender. He can contribute going forward.
Exactly.
And, not afraid to get stuck in a real warrior at the back. Now, is there anyone on the Wolves side that could cause Newcastle problems?
Well, Wolves have Matheus Cunha returning from suspension, and he presents an interesting sort of tactical wrinkle. He scored most of his 10 Premier League goals this season away from home.
That's interesting. You'd think a striker would be more comfortable scoring in front of their own crowd.
Yeah.
Why do you think he's more prolific on the road?
It could be a number of things. Perhaps he thrives on the counterattack.
Yeah.
Finding more space to exploit when teams are pushing forward against Wolves. Or maybe he just, relishes the underdog role, playing with more freedom, less pressure away from home.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how Pereira might utilize him tactically.
Yeah.
Will he be the target man, or will they use him to run in behind Newcastle's defense?
It's a great question. It speaks to the broader tactical battle that we're likely to see here. I think Newcastle, under the Contown, how they're going to want to control possession, press high, force Wolves into mistakes.
Right.
But Wolves, with Cunha's pace, could be very, very dangerous on the break.
Yeah, it's that clash of styles, right?
It is.
That just makes football so unpredictable.
Absolutely.
So the high-powered offense of Newcastle against the counter-attacking threat of Wolves, this is going to be good. And speaking of clashes, what does the historical context tell us about this fixture?
Well, draws are surprisingly common between
Yeah.
these two sides. 19 times they've met in the Premier League, and they've drawn on 11 occasions.
11. Wow, that's a lot of draws.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So history suggests we could be in for a, tight, cagey affair.
It's a real possibility, yeah. But here's another sort of historical tidbit that might interest you. Wolves are in danger of suffering their first league double defeat to Newcastle in over a century.
Really?
The last time that happened was way back in the 1905-06 season.
Over a century. Wow. That puts things in perspective. Seems like history's not exactly on Wolves' side.
No, not really.
Is there anything else we should know about their record at St. James's Park?
Well, we've already touched upon it, but it's worth reiterating. Wolves have never kept a clean sheet at St. James's Park in the Premier League era.
Not once.
Not once.
That's quite a stat.
Yeah.
Even with their new defensive signing, Emmanuel Agbadou.
Yeah, tough ask.
It seems like they'll have their work cut out for them,
Yeah.
trying to contain this Newcastle attack.
For sure, yeah. He's a talented player, Agbadou, but he will need to adapt quickly to the pace and intensity of the Premier League.
Yeah, big step up. So you've got Newcastle's irresistible force going up against Wolves' seemingly immovable object.
Yeah.
You've got these individual battles like Schär versus Cunha,
Yep.
and then you've got that weight of history just hanging over Wolves. This is all shaping up to be a fascinating encounter.
Oh, for sure.
But before we get carried away, we should remind ourselves that in football, as in life, nothing is certain.
Wise words. I mean, all the analysis in the world can't fully account for the twists and turns, the drama that can happen on the pitch. That's what makes football so beautiful, its unpredictability.
I mean, the big question is, will Newcastle continue their dominant run and get closer to that Champions League qualification?
Yeah.
Or can Wolves pull off the upset?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a clash of momentum versus desperation.
Yeah.
Attacking flair versus defensive resilience. Real David versus Goliath scenario, you could say.
I like that. I like that analogy a lot. That kind of highlights what makes this match so compelling.
Right.
You've got all these ingredients for,
Yeah.
a captivating encounter.
You do.
You've got individual battles, you've got the tactical intrigue, and then you got the weight of history.
As we've discussed, all the stats and the narratives, they all add layers of complexity to this one.
Yeah, so much to think about.
Yeah.
What are you most looking forward to seeing play out on the pitch?
I'm really interested to see how Wolves' new defensive signing, Agbadou, handles the pressure of St. James's Park.
Yep.
Can he break the curse?
Yeah.
Can he help Wolves get that first clean sheet at this ground in the Premier League?
Yeah. Great point. Great point. And on the other side, can Schär continue his dominance against Wolves?
Yeah.
Marshal Newcastle's defense to another victory? Oh, it's going to be fascinating.
It's matches like these
Yeah,
that remind us why we love this game.
it is. Absolutely. Well, there you have it. We crunched the numbers, we analyzed the trends, and we've explored the potential storylines of this weekend's Newcastle versus Wolves clash.
Yeah,
Hopefully this deep dive has given you something to think about.
I think so. Use these insights, form your own predictions, and, most importantly,
Yeah.
enjoy the match.
Enjoy the match. Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the heart of the Premier League. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep the passion for the beautiful game alive.